shock, the nerve, the audacity.
And we're back, folks, for another edition of the Audacity Podcast. As always, you know who I am. My name is Luke. We got Marvin Boney in the house today, Josh Joseph, and we got a special guest today. Some of you guys may know him. Some of you Lynn folks may know him already. Big guest today, McCullough. So what's up to the people, man?
What's going on? Thank y'all for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course, no, thank you for coming on. Really do appreciate it. For those who don't know, McCullough's well known around the Lynn community, obviously well known around Massachusetts as well, recording games, supporting the youth, and doing all the good stuff that you like to see people doing. Giving a platform to lots of basketball players here, football players, really all the sports, high school sports that you could think of, and a little bit of college sports as well. And so I just want to dive into it. I just want you to talk about how you got into that and what drives you to keep doing this every single day.
Really, what got me into starting all this was around like 2016. Two of my friends, they got the head coaching job at Lynn English. They were coaching the girls team, and I used to just go to the games and support. And one day, one of them asked me to take pictures because he knew one of my college classes I took pictures. So I did that. Slowly started with pictures, and then working at the community station, I got the access to the cameras and all that. So at one point, I said, you know what? Let me just start going to these games and recording it because I know I like basketball. And I was trying to learn how to edit and all that, so I just started getting my feet wet with that. Ever since then, it just took off. It started off with photography, and I was like, I don't really like taking pictures that much, so I just put fully into recording the games, recording the videography, and creating highlights. And then the interview parts, it just came with me and one of my old co-workers. We created a sports program, and then one of our segments was to interview student athletes. So that's kind of just how that one started, and then it took off from there.
Oh, that's amazing, man. And I feel like because I jumped into that a little bit, I feel like you giving these student athletes an interview, I feel like it makes them feel good about themselves. Also, if they have a good game and if they're balling out during the season, but being interviewed and asking questions about their game and how they prepare for the game every single day and actually perform, I think that makes them feel good as well. And we appreciate you for doing that, for real.
Yeah, definitely. And for a lot of them, some of them might go to a big time college. Some of them might play big time college basketball, and this is kind of getting their feet wet as far as the interview part of it, because that's going to be a big thing. If they get to that level, you're going to have to do interviews. And so this is just me getting them ready for that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, it's easy access for their film. Because I know a lot of guys back in the day, they said they wish they could have had easy access to their film because they had to ask the coach, they had to ask somebody in the school, and it'd take forever to get them. So now, like me doing this, it's just easier access for them to get their film out.
No, absolutely. No, I remember back in the day when I was trying to get something, I had to get the huddle from my coaches, and I had to get the passwords and things like that. So it was kind of difficult. It wasn't what the kids have today now. So it's nice. They get a lot of exposure nowadays, which is really good.
Definitely.
I got a quick question. Outside of filming games and doing sports and stuff like that, I see you're pretty heavily involved with Lynn Community Television and whatnot. I've seen you moderating debates and doing stuff outside of sports and whatnot. I'm assuming some of that stemmed from this, your work you started there, or how did you get involved in branching out like that?
Yeah, it's all through the Lynn Community Television. They're the ones that actually got me to be in front of the camera. I never wanted to be in front of the camera, but they convinced me. They just told me one day to do an interview, and then the other guys, they didn't really want to do the interviews. They liked the behind the scenes, so I just started doing them, and then they were just like, you can do the interviews, you can do these other stuff, and then that's how it started. Also, in grad school, we kind of had to do a little bit of that. So putting that education to use, Paid all that money, might as well put it to use.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, man, that's great, and we love to hear it. We love to see you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and also on that other the other part, what got me outside of sports is just I did journalism in grad school, so part of that is kind of knowing how to do everything besides sports, and different topics and all that. So a variety of journalism.
That's very interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was recently watching one of the videos. He actually came out with the last playoff game that happened with me and Lou coaching the Audacity versus the Bravehearts. Lord, I'm not gonna lie, the commentary had me dying. You hit us with the undercard. I couldn't believe it. The undercard. I was like, oh.
This looks like a undercard for a fight. before when only like the cleaning crew and the setup crew are there.
Nah, I couldn't let that one slide. I had to bring this one up.
Nobody thought you guys were gonna make the playoffs.
No, people weren't believing in us.
Absolutely. I wasn't believing in us.
Did you guys win?
No, we did not win. We were missing a lot of players, unfortunately. A lot of things happened. Half the people not there. It's tough.
To their credit, they did have a chance. They did have a chance at it because whatever adjustments they made in that first half, they got the lead down to 6, and the kids were competing, so they had a chance to they had a chance. They made the game close. They stopped turning the ball over. They stopped being erratic. They actually started moving the ball, and every time they moved the ball, they got good things happen. It was whenever they decided to go downhill with their not looking up with their heads down, that's when they got in trouble, and that's why
No,
they lost.
definitely. The defensive effort was there. I would say the guys that showed up, they did a good effort. I will give credit where credit is due. Out of everybody, if I'd have to say the best effort, I would say was Chris Brown. He played a good bit.
Absolutely.
He's actually white and Asian, but yeah.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, we was talking about his effort because he just kept going at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, his effort level is amazing. He never stops, and that's good. That's gonna go a long way too. As he gets older, and these kids, me and Marvin, just like these kids were freshmen, 8th graders, and so really they're just getting their feet wet in high school basketball. So all that effort is gonna go a long way if they keep pursuing at it.
Shout out to them.
Definitely.
All right. With that being said, we're gonna jump right into it. Our first topic of today.
This generation get very, very disrespectful when it comes to that era, and they always say like, "Oh well, Wilt Chamberlain, even if he did put up 100, it was against plumbers."
Please, the plumbers. Are you kidding me? They had so many great centers back in those. They hardly have centers. The guys that are centers now, they're not centers. I mean, they play on the wing. They're all wanting to shoot 3-point shots. I mean, they don't block shots. They don't protect the rim. It's a different game. People don't understand. I've had many people say, "Well, Rick, you guys wouldn't be able to play with these guys today." I said, "Okay, what drugs are you on?" Okay, because you got a problem. Because if you really understood the game and you really knew what the difference was between when we played and the guys playing here, we had nothing to help us. I didn't have an agility coach. I didn't have a dietitian. I didn't travel on charter planes so that we could get a good night's sleep and get to the next city and have a nice day. We drove ourselves around in rental cars. I mean, we had $8 a day per diem. These guys get chartered food on their planes. We didn't have whirlpools, and we didn't have saunas, and we didn't have masseuses, and we didn't have any of that. If I played today, I would be faster. And I was pretty fast, okay, and quick. I'd be faster, stronger, quicker, more endurance, jump higher. I would be so much better a basketball player because I had none of those things available to me. It's absolutely crazy how much better the guys that I played with, the Oscar Robertsons and Jerry West, all of us, as good as we were, would be even greater playing today.
Wow.
We all just listened to it. I know, Josh. I hope you bring the same energy onto here. We're gonna talk about old head Rick Barry. Rick Barry had a few things to say last week regarding the NBA today and how the game is played compared to players in his era with Wilt and players of his era compared to the players of this era. Basically saying that if they played in today's game, they would still dominate and they will be even better than they were due to the fact that nowadays a lot of these players have personal trainers, masseuses, like the cold baths. They have a lot of recovery things that can help them recover quicker than they did back in the day. And whereas you didn't have trainers, he also spoke about like having like private planes to take you places where they had to take trains, cars, not really a good sleeping schedule. So the players in today are like treated better than they were back then. And he says because of that, that would have helped them with like the mileage on their bodies and the recovery, and they would have been even better today. And Josh, I just want to hear your thoughts on that first.
I think he's probably right. I don't really understand the point he was making. Like, yeah, they'd be better players today if they had all that stuff. Like, yeah, no shit. I think his point was that like people disrespect how good they are and discredit their era, which I think is nonsense. But I think people who do that don't really know the sport, and they're pretty intellectually dishonest, and they're not putting a lot of effort into thinking about this stuff. Like, yeah, at first glance, like Kyrie is a better player than Rick Barry, but like that's a very disingenuous stance to take, given Kyrie was born 20 years later, has 40 years of NBA history to watch, so on and so forth. Like yeah, the game evolves. The new players get to learn from the old players. So yeah, their players might have different skills and so on and so forth, but you're still great for your era. But like objectively, the players today are better, quote unquote, maybe better in terms of their ability to play basketball from a physical standpoint, because I think players today lack a lot in the mental department of the game. But yeah, like the rules are different, a lot of things are different, so it appears to the naked eye that players today are better. But as far as, yeah, you'd have all this shit, cool, you're still not going to be able to jump like Jaylen Brown. Like, that don't really make a lot. Like, you think you'd be more athletic, maybe a little bit, but what about like I think we say this a lot, but like Steve Kerr, like I hate to say it, but I genuinely don't know if Steve Kerr is making the NBA like today. Just because like his role is not, there's no need for his.
He can shoot.
There's no need for the things
True.
he can do today. Everybody can shoot today. Like but that's really all he did. Like, so he was.
No, but he's an all-time great shooter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but shooting
today's.
But we talk about.
I think with this in an
time.
NBA, you need shooting.
He would be like Peyton Pritchard today. Like, they're the same archetype player. He's probably a better shooter, but like it's hard for dudes like that to make the NBA. You know what I mean? And we don't see a lot of dudes.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like
But that doesn't take away from how good Steve Kerr was for his era. But the game requires different things today, so it's hard to really compare. It's not like that's why I don't like doing the whole.
I'm putting this on a poll.
Like,
Steve Kerr paying Pritchard.
I don't know. That's a hard sell, Josh. I think that one's.
If Steve Kerr wasn't on the Bulls and the Spurs and didn't have play with all these great players and have this pedigree, like, we're not thinking twice about him. Him as an individual is probably not making NBA. Like,
this is a clip. This is a debate.
We talk about Peyton Pritchard.
We're debating this. All right, bet.
We talk about Peyton Pritchard barely belonging in the league, right? We're like, yo, why is he on the roster? Okay.
But we're not. But we're not the ones comparing Steve Kerr to Peyton Pritchard. You are.
So who are you comparing Steve Kerr to today in the NBA? I'm just thinking of white dudes that don't really do nothing else but can shoot the ball kind of good.
In today's NBA, Steve Kerr,
like,
or
there isn't really a comparison, right? Because there aren't really dudes like that in the league. Like, that role is kind of phased out. You got to be very good at multiple things. Like, it's It's a
But I
different
feel like,
sport.
all right, so, but if Steve Kerr played in this era, he played probably a little differently. He probably played like an Austin Reeves or something, just because he would have to adapt.
I
You feel
don't.
me?
One,
That's
he's
the
not
whole
that
thing.
big.
No, but you get what I'm saying, though.
Two,
He'd have to change his style a bit. Like he
and
just
I
wouldn't
don't
play
think he
exactly the
would.
same.
I don't think he would be able to. Is my thing. He doesn't have the physical tools required. You
Okay.
can get by on not having those physical tools back in the day. You can't really do that today. You know what I mean?
I think he'd be. I think he'd be more. He'd be. I think he'd do fine because the only thing he probably have to adjust to is just he probably just have to move more,
I got a
move
great
around. He'd be like
comparison
Kyle
actually,
Korver. Kyle Korver.
but he's 6'1", like if that. And Kyle Korver, he's not the shooter Kyle is. Like he's not coming off screens launching like that, again, a very specific skill set that I don't even know if Kyle Korver is getting minutes like that in today's
What?
in
No, so
2023 league. Like,
yo, it's kind of like if JJ Redick was effective as long as he was in the NBA, I think Steve Kerr would still be.
Oh, that's actually a good
that's
comparison.
that's a
That's
decent
a good comparison.
comparison. JJ's 6'4" though, but I
JJ
see where you're
6'4"?
going.
Jesus,
Yeah,
I don't
Kerr's
really
like
thought
six.
so.
Steve Kerr's like 6'3" though.
no, he's not.
Yeah, he is. Have you ever
He's
seen him?
6'3". He's 6'3".
He is
He's
shorter
right.
than Steph.
He's
Like,
up the same height
significantly
as Steph.
He's 6'3".
shorter than Steph.
He's
Him and
6'3".
Steph are like the same.
Actually, he might have been 6'3" playing. He's old. He might have shrunk a little bit. I'll give him that.
Steph
But-
is 6'2".
Yeah, he's 6'3". He's 6'3".
Sure, but
You could
the point
compare
is-
Redick and yeah.
let me wrap my point up and then y'all can talk. My point is like the specific skill sets of those players don't exactly translate today. Like the game requires different things. Like I'm using Steve Kerr as an example because I feel like he has a particular skill set that doesn't quite exactly translate to the game today, but he was good for the time he played it and he was able to be effective in the NBA then, which is why the whole like Rick Barry is right in terms of like it's stupid to say those guys can't play in the league today, but it's kind of not, but it's not a knock on them necessarily. It's that the game has evolved so much so it requires a lot of different things. So not everybody from back then could play in the league today. Rick Barry might have been able to, but he's like the best of the best. Right? Oscar Robertson might, but your run-of-the-mill players, the average NBA player today is a little bit more physically gifted than the average NBA player was back then. So that was my only point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you're right. But when it comes like to Rick Barry, I think like the main point he's trying to say is just kind of like what you touched on. I think he's trying to say, hey, me, Oscar Robinson, you probably like Bill Russell, people like back in the day that were just so dominant. He's like, yeah, we would still be dominant in the NBA because of this and that, because we didn't have all this and we were able to do all this amazing athletic feats. You know what I mean? They were like balling in like Chuck Taylors and shit. It's just like it is like crazy. You know what I mean? Like there is like some shit that's like mind blowing because especially too the fact that those guys were always playing like 82 games and shit, like they were consistent. They weren't out as often as other players are. They're probably playing through stupid injuries. You know what I mean? And the technicality of basketball too, just everything they were going through, even with the ball, even with the floor, just things were just so different because it was just old. You know what I mean? But it is a big what if, because even someone as nasty as like, and I know this is a little blasphemous, but even someone as nasty as a Bill Russell, you can't even guarantee if they're gonna be nice in this era. You really can't. You don't freaking know. Shit's different. Like your life could be different. You know what I mean? Like, who says you're even a basketball player? It's crazy, but it's fucking true. But if you're going by a real hypothetical and we're just talking about Rick Barry alone, I feel like he's talking his shit just because he was such a dominant shooter that it doesn't matter what era he's in. And I feel like specifically shooting is almost like errorless. You know what I mean? You can you always need a shooter. You always need someone who could just make the ball go in the damn hoop from different ranges of distance. You know what I mean? And Rick Barry was that guy. He's one of the best free throw shooters ever. He's an underhanded free throw shooter. That shit is iconic. You feel me? That's just crazy. He's like 90% shooting that shit. That shit's scientific. But when it comes to like his whole point or whatever, him coming at these other players, him saying this and that, I think he has a point for himself, like specifically himself, just not the whole realm, because you can pick and choose and it's a debate depending on your playing style, because sometimes you can fit one era, even like two eras, but you might not fit the modern era. You're seeing people like Kenneth Fareed, you know what I mean? They fall off just because it's not that time anymore. You know what I mean? And some people won't fit in certain eras. You can't make a square fit into a circle. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
No, those are valid points. I'll call anything.
I think for Rick Barry, he does sound like the grumpy old man. Because number one, there's only certain centers from when he played that could actually keep up with the centers now. Come on, can you imagine some of those guys trying to go up against Embiid, trying to go up against Giannis, trying to go up against AD? It'd be a nightmare for them. Probably the only guy from that era would probably be Wilt, because Wilt was just a freak of nature. Like basketball, he ran track, he played lacrosse. Like Wilt was a freak of nature. So he could survive all eras, but not all centers from those eras could play with these guys now. It's just a whole. It wouldn't be fair. It would not be fair, because these guys are more physical. They're much stronger than those guys were back then. They got more skills. They could take them in the post. They could take them outside. They could do a whole bunch of stuff to those older centers. And like, I mean, could you think of any centers back then that you think could translate to this day and age? We'd probably say, well, maybe Bill Russell, just because Bill Russell he kind of plays similar to kind of how AD was, from what I've heard. So I think it's just the grumpy old man, and also these guys also, yeah, they got all these chartered flights, they get all this stuff, but also these guys be going out the night before games, like they be doing some harm. Some of these guys be going drinking the night before, like they be partying. They be in the
Harden.
Yeah, they be in the club the night before, and then they'll come and. It's the grumpy old man syndrome right here. That's what it sounded like to me. Like he made some good points, but then when he started saying some of those other guys, if they had the stuff now, they'd dominate. I don't think so. I think they'd probably be in for a rude awakening.
Yo, I gotta squeeze this in though. In his defense though, like they were playing in like the cocaine era. You know what I mean? Like that was a wild time in the NBA. Like those guys were like, you know, people were smoking in the building and stuff. Like that shit was unhealthy. Like that was
probably helped. They were on drugs and shit on the court. It probably would, and they would play all them games.
Yo, people died, bro. Like
just like the game evolved, the drugs also evolved. So
to another point though, like what you said, real quick, the same way players today have more advancements and shit and recovery and stuff like that. I think players today also train a lot harder than players did back then. I think the regiments, the amount of time these guys put in is also significantly more. Like we talk about like AU basketball, you're playing 4 games a weekend minimum, like because that's the type of effort these guys are putting in on a consistent basis to get to how good that is, which I think factors into why we see so many injuries and stuff. I think back then it was more like, yo, if you're good, and you play a lot, but you're not. I don't think they were training the way that some of these guys are training now. So there's that aspect of it as well, just on the flip side of the whole, you know, they have all this stuff now.
Those guys were also smoking cigarettes. They were also smoking cigarettes on the bench.
That's crazy. What a time.
Shout out Red Auerbach. But another thing that Rick Barry also said, this one hits kind of closer to home because he talked about Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown just signed a big, I think it was $3 or $4 million Supermax deal. And he was basically saying he didn't deserve it or that he didn't earn it.
The contracts they have, even, you know, like Brown, you know, $306 million. I mean, that's just hard for me to believe. I mean, you know what his average in the playoffs for them is 18.5 points a game. I mean, 18.5 points a game, and he's going to make $69 million in the last year of his contract.
That's a lot of money, Rick.
But 18.5 points a game that's nothing. Seriously, to pay somebody that kind of money, and he's a nice player. I really like him. But, man, he's got to improve his game. He turns the ball over too much. He tries to force things, and so is his teammate, Tatum. That's one of the reasons they lost to the Warriors 2 seasons ago. They make too many turnovers. In the game of basketball, you must say, there's a saying, keep it simple, stupid. Okay? Keep it as simple as possible. You take what the defense gives you. A play is only designed so everybody knows where they are, and if the ideal thing happens, you know where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do if certain things happen. But if other things happen, you change. You do it. You go the other way. You, again, take what the defense gives you.
No, yeah. What Rick Barrett was also saying, he was basically saying that Jaylen Brown didn't deserve the Supermax. Jalen Brown's got, I believe, 3 or 4 million Supermax contract deal. And I was actually stunned when he brought this up, but like, it's actually true. Like in the playoffs, Jaylen Brown averages 18 points per game, which is actually kind of stunning because he's going into his 7th year in the league. I've always thought he's had like big playoffs game, but that average kind of surprised me. But it is true. So like he's basically saying he only averages 18 points per game in the playoffs. He's a turnover machine. He also brought up the dribbling. And he basically, Jaylen Brown doesn't have the best IQ. And so he didn't think that Jaylen Brown deserved the money that he's getting. He's getting paid. I know this upcoming year is going to get 30 mil, but at some point he's going to be getting paid close to 70 mil a season. And Rick Barrett didn't believe that also. So McCall, I'll start with you. How do you feel about that?
I feel that's some hating right there too, because he didn't tell the whole story. He didn't tell the whole facts. If we're looking at Jaylen Brown's numbers in the playoffs, they've gone up each year he's been in the league. Yeah, he averages 18.2, but the last 3 playoffs, he's averaged 21, 23, and 22, shooting about 40%, 49% from the field and 35 from 3. 35 from 3 is not, I mean, it's pretty decent, but put the totality. He just for his whole playoff. I mean, and it was that one year he didn't even start. He didn't even play that many minutes in the playoffs like his rookie year. And
yeah, his first 2 years.
Yeah, his first 2 years, and let's not even talk about that 2019 postseason where that I don't even want to talk about that. But ever since then, when they quit in 2019 and that whole Kyrie Irving debacle, his playoff numbers have been increasing each year in every category. So I think that was a little bit of hating. Yes, we know he turns the ball over. But this past season, didn't he have some type of torn ligament in his left hand?
Yeah, I think his thumb. Well, yeah, was it like he was like picking up glass or something? He like cut himself there.
Yeah, so I mean, we could add that to a factor, but yeah, he turned it. He had a bad play. He had a bad series. No, he had a bad Game 7, and that's what everybody's gonna remember. He had a bad Game 7 against the Heat, but now to just kind of undersell what he's been doing in the playoffs because he's really been a good playoff performance. Just a year ago, we were talking about he's been the best players for the Celtics in the finals. Just a year ago, everybody was saying that he was the best player on the Celtics in the finals, and how everybody was getting on Tatum. And now for him to say that, I think that was a ridiculous statement for him to make. He made back-to-back years. He made All-NBA team, I believe. He made All-NBA team. Hey, it's not his fault. These are the CBA. These are the stipulations. If you make All-NBA teams, you're eligible for this Supermax. He did what he had to do. Made All-NBA team. He had this regular season. I think he had career high in points and production as well. So I mean, he's shown he's worth the 300 mil to this era of how they're paying guys. He's shown. I mean, he went the last 4 years. He goes 20 points per game, 24 points per game, 23 points per game, and 26 points per game this past season. I mean, the way some of these other guys are getting paid, it seems like he should be getting paid more because maybe guys averaging less than that, they got a whole big contract. So hey, sorry, but that was kind of ridiculous what he said about him.
Oh, keep preaching them facts. I like that. Keep preaching them facts. Go ahead, Marvin.
All right. So when it comes to Rick Barry, I def think he's coming from kind of like a jealousy point, in my opinion, just because they just didn't get paid as much back in the day. So he's just like, whoa, this is ridiculous. a Jaylen Brown is getting this much. You know what I mean? Because in his head, he probably thinks he was a better caliber player back in his day or whatever. He's surprised that players are seeing this much money, but the NBA is a big product. Obviously, people are going to get paid more. It makes sense why Jaylen Brown got that money. Yes, Jaylen Brown deserves that money. But what happens, and it's just the truth. If you're going to get $300 million, you're going to get $300 million criticism. People are going to come for you because he's the highest paid NBA player ever. And it's the truth. If you're going to get that much money, you have to play better than you've been playing. And he is a great player. And we were talking about how people were saying that, oh, Jaylen Brown is better than Tatum. A lot of people are preaching it for a while. This is the first time in a minute, maybe like 3-4 years, that I've heard all of that stop. The reason why it stopped is his last performance. He was exposed, and it's true. He really needs to work on his left hand. That's huge. I think he's going to come next year. He's going to be prepared, but he's getting this type of criticism, just like Tatum has gotten this criticism, just like LeBron has gotten this criticism, just like any high caliber player gets if they don't perform when it's time to perform. You've seen it happen to Harden. You'll see it continue to happen. The only way that he can get a Rick Barry to stop talking, he can get even a 2K to underrate him to an 89, to get people on Twitter stop coming at him because he's getting a lot of criticism. He really got to show up. This is a big season for him, because if he doesn't show up, this is nothing. If he does not perform this season, that's all I got to say.
There's a guy we're going to talk about later that, he gets all the praises, but for some reason he's devoid of all criticism when he pretty much does the same thing. We'll get to that later.
I'm ready for that one. Go ahead, John.
Well, he's gonna be the highest paid player in the league for like half the season. Like,
right.
We gotta relax. Like, this is just what the market dictates. It's literally not that deep. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fucking money. That's what niggas getting paid nowadays. And remember what I said last podcast? If Tyrese Halliburton getting 50 mil, Jaylen Brown gotta be getting more than Tyrese Halliburton. I'm sorry. And I don't like when we look at all the, like, we judge players by only their bad moments. Like, he averaged almost 27 points per game last season, almost 50% from the field. Like, he carries us on nights a lot of times. He carried us in the playoffs sometimes last year. We might not get to game 7 if it's not for him. And that's sort of been the story of the Celtics. A lot of times it's him being Robin and not getting some of the credit and whatnot, but he is that caliber of player. And real quick, speaking of players who do the same thing and don't get criticism, well, I wouldn't say this guy doesn't get criticism, but I guarantee you he's going to be getting paid more money than Jaylen Brown. Joel Embiid, every single year in the playoffs, fought, like, he goes from averaging 30 a game to like 23. Yeah, pretty sure he was second in the league or led the league in scoring last year at 30, whatever. He averaged 23.7 last year in the playoffs. Like, if anybody deserves criticism, it's him. He's supposed to be like a top 3, 4, 5 player in the NBA, and he legitimately falls off and disappears when the team needs him. But he's your guy. Like, he's going to be getting paid. He's going to make this Jaylen Brown contract look tiny. So, and when we criticizing guys, we got to go criticize the niggas who are the number ones on their team who actually fall off in the playoffs.
The league MVP disappeared in a game 7, and it went all quiet.
Crazy.
It went quiet. Like, it was like people were scared to say something about him disappearing in game 7, even in game 6.
I think people are trying to. I think people are trying to. Nah, Harden didn't even do that bad. Oh, actually, let me take that back.
Harden did worse. That's the only reason.
Let me take that back.
It's literally the only reason.
And not only that, he goes to the media afterwards and blames everybody else, talking about, I know, got to do more. Craziness. Crazy. No.
But I also think people were giving him a little bit of slack because he did have that knee injury. And
every year, bro. The last 2 seasons of the playoffs, 23.6, 23.7. Not good enough. Not good enough for the dudes lobbying for NBA for MVP, claiming he got robbed of MVPs. And then the dude who should have won goes on to win the finals. What are we doing here, bro? Like, come on, my nigga. Like, this straight up, I don't want to hear nothing about Jaylen Brown. He deserves everything he got.
not lobbying for MVP, crying for MVP,
Yeah.
crying.
Got
He
Kenny
spent-
Tucker on television talking about he not getting consideration because he's black or whatever the hell he said. Like, come on, bro, like it's not calling a spade, bro. Like this is crazy.
Oh man, no, that's some good stuff. Joel Embiid did average 30 points per game in the playoffs in the 2020 playoffs. If you cared about that.
That's great. Round did he go home in?
Second.
Probably second round.
Yeah. Jaylen Brown been in the
Nah.
finals, the Western Conference or Eastern Conference finals every year of his career.
All right, but speaking of players deserving criticism, if we're comparing players right now, this is my favorite. This is my favorite thing right here to do. So obviously, I think Marvin brought it up earlier too. Jaylen Brown got an 89 overall in the latest 2K, while Jimmy Butler got a 95. Obviously, Tatum got 95. I don't know what Paul George's rating was, but overall, Jaylen Brown got an 89. Jimmy Butler got 95. Jason Tatum got 95. I like Jimmy Butler. I like Jimmy Butler a lot. It's a great player. But ain't no way this man is 6 points or 6 overall better than Jaylen Brown. There's no way he's the same as Jason Tatum.
Yo, Paul George is an 89.
Whoa.
Well, he barely played. I can understand why they're doing that to Paul George. I can understand why they're doing that to Paul George. I can.
Yeah.
Because he barely. I don't.
Like
I
at
think
88, right? Kyrie's at
No.
88. I think
you're
so.
lying.
No,
You're
Kyrie's
lying.
88. Nah, they hitting him
What?
like that. 2K's on it if he is. Let me see.
But
Let me
Kyrie's
see.
been in the
Nah.
80s for like the last 2 years though. Like,
Nah, he's a 91. You're bugging.
You're
Kyrie-
You're
don't disrespect
bugging.
that man like that.
I was
bro.
like,
Holy
what?
crap.
This man got up too. He's gonna be like at 94 by the end of the season. This man's going
I don't
crazy
know.
right
What? Yeah.
No, but I think Nicole. I got it right. Nicole Jokic got the best one at 98. They gave LeBron 96. Giannis 96. Steph 96. Steph 96. Yeah, Jason Tatum 95. Jimmy Butler 95. Luka Doncic 95. And then you got Jaylen Brown at 89. I love but back to us. I love Jimmy Butler. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great player for the Heat. I think if he wins a ring, it'll be like the most beloved ring. Like I think Josh said this a couple of podcast episodes ago. Like good for him. But like I think people live so much on like recency bias, and it's just like it blows my mind that they really think Jimmy Butler is 95. Some people think Jimmy Butler is better than Jason Tatum. I get it. Like his team won the series, but like if we're talking like strictly like ball skills, like pick your three, and let's go to the park and let's hoop. Jimmy Butler is not my top 3 pick, not my top 4 pick, not my top 5 pick. And I love Jimmy Butler, but I think the recency bias that's going on with him right now is just like through the roof. And obviously the Heat are, as a team, they play very, very well. And the leader of that is Jimmy Butler, but the Heat are more so of like a team. Like the winning wise is because of the team. Obviously, a lot of times it's going to be because of Jimmy Butler, but a lot of times it's because of the team. Josh said earlier, Duncan Robinson came through and scored a quick 10 points in the fourth quarter of the NBA Finals games. I didn't see Jimmy Butler go anywhere or do anything in the fourth quarters of those games that they lost. Obviously, those games were close and stuff like that, but Jimmy Butler is also nowhere to exist. So I think that is just blasphemy to me. The wise words for Stephen A. Smith, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Jimmy Butler had a worse NBA Finals than Jason Tatum, and for some reason everybody just acted like it didn't happen, like he didn't have he wasn't horrible for the majority of the finals, minus probably like one game, and it was just playoff Jimmy. Oh, he like led his team to the finals, but when they got to the finals, you're supposed to be the guy. This is your time. I mean, if we're gonna criticize Tatum for an entire summer about how he underperformed in the finals, it's like, why are we giving Jimmy Butler a pass? it's like Miami. It's like the Miami got this Cinderella story, but then when it doesn't happen, when they don't get the prince or whatever, or get the prize, that's what it is. It was like, oh, it was just a Cinderella story. This was a great story for the Heat. Blah blah blah. They were able to get to the finals. It's like a story of adversity and all that stuff. But it's kind of like this guy's a max player. He's supposed to perform in the finals. Give him the same type of criticism that we give James Harden every year when he fades out in big games. Give him the same criticism they gave Kobe when they lost in the finals. Same criticism that LeBron gets for any time he loses. LeBron can put up 80 points, and if they lose, he still gets all the criticism. They hold Jimmy Butler to this pedestal, but then when it's time to criticize him on that pedestal they put him on, it's like everybody just be like, everybody just be like, oh, they lost. It happened. That's it. And then we don't hear nothing from it again.
I'm gonna slightly disagree. I think deep down, I don't think any of us look at Jimmy Butler as that guy.
I don't. I'm telling you, I don't.
I think that's why you're right. He doesn't get the criticism he probably should, because everything we see him doing, it's like, oh, this is great, but we don't expect it. In large part, maybe because he just doesn't play like that all regular season, and I think the regular season has been devalued a lot when we have these conversations about what guys getting paid and like what we value out of guys. But I don't think every time Jimmy Butler plays great in the playoffs, it's like, oh, well, that's good, that's great, that's phenomenal. It is a Cinderella story type vibe, but that does give him the leeway to fall off a bit, and nobody really gives a fuck because, well, he was overperforming anyway. I think that's what it is. The bigotry of low expectations. We don't really expect a ton to begin with. So when he doesn't perform, it's like, all right. And we're not thinking of him as a top 10, top 5 caliber player, but he has made it to 2 finals in the last however many years. So it's like, all right. I'm gonna give Jimmy Butler this. I think if he's on the Miami Heat, he might be a 95. I'll give him that. As long as he's on the Heat playing for Eric Spoelstra, that's
I don't even think that.
But you take him off that. Yeah, he at 89, 90, 90.
He at 85. 85.
Nah, shit.
85, man. No.
Yeah. I think it's crazy Paul George is at 89.
Yeah, that is.
Paul George not a 90. Yo, what's Kawhi's rate? I need to see this.
I got you. I got you the top 10 right here. Jokic number 1, 98. Then it goes Giannis 96, LeBron 96, Embiid 96, KD 96, Curry 96, Luka 95, Tatum 95, Jimmy Butler 95, Kawhi 94.
Kawhi 94.
Man, he barely plays.
but see, I think that's what people are using for Paul George, and like people just haven't seen the Paul George play a lot, and that's why that happened to him. That's why he's dropped to the 89. But they're not doing the same thing with Kawhi. So like maybe just because Kawhi's a champion.
When he does play, Kawhi out there going crazy, but
yeah. Paul George is on the court more than Kawhi.
And Paul George be hooping though. Paul George is at least
exactly. That's what
to me, like
that's what I'm saying.
The same, him and Kyrie are similar. Put up similar stats, similar roles.
I give him a 90. He should be in the like a 90.
I think he should definitely be a 90.
91.
Yeah.
He's like, I'd say he's like a tier below Dame. I'm guessing Dame's like a 93.
Damian Lillard is number 12, 94, behind D-Book.
So 94. I can see Paul George at 91, 90, 92 type shit. Like 89, the same as Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry, nah.
Yeah.
I think Jaylen Brown should be higher also, but nah, I'm not.
Yeah, no, this is disrespectful.
He's 3 points higher than Austin Reeves. Get higher fuck out of here.
Nah, like 2K's going crazy this year. 2K's being really disrespectful with the ratings. Like they're out of their minds. I mean, when it comes to like Jimmy's rating though, I think like Jimmy being a 95 is obviously recency bias. Like I feel like he should be high though. I think he deserves to be a 92, 93. He should be up there just because it's true. Nah, 87 is
Wait.
crazy, crazy. I think he's one of those dudes, though, it's just the truth. He kind of holds back or some shit in the regular season. He does not give it his all. But when it comes to the playoffs, that man is cooking. He didn't have a good finals, though. It's true. Was not putting in that effort, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because it's true. He had that crazy ankle injury. Shit looked like a baseball. I don't know. He was going through it. But when it comes to him being the same rating as Tatum, that shit is ridiculous. I don't know. When it comes to recency bias, it takes over everything because 95, the fact that he's a 95 and Jaylen Brown is an 89, I'm sorry. Like that.
Did he
is
make
crazy,
any
man.
All NBA teams? Did he
Who,
make any
Jimmy?
All NBA?
I don't think so.
I don't
Not,
think he played enough
not this
games.
year. Not this year.
But
I was just-
Josh, I think that Austin Reeves rating was a lie because I don't even see him in the top 100 here.
All right, good.
And Russell Westbrook is at 100 at 81.
All right, man.
81.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This Jimmy Butler's a hard player to rank, though. Like
Because it depends when you want to rank him. And honestly,
Yeah.
even in these past playoffs, he played great that first series against Milwaukee. I'll give that to him. Giannis was out for a couple of games. I'm not trying to discredit what Jimmy Butler did, but yeah, he played amazing. Then in the Knicks series, I don't think he played the first two games of that Knicks series, and then when he came back, I think he was just
He played the first
his
game,
normal
he didn't
self.
play
I think he was just average.
Never mind what I said before. He made All NBA second team this year.
Jimmy?
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah, this
How?
year he did.
yeah, he did.
He did.
Okay.
How?
Okay.
So did
He
Jaylen
averaged
Brown.
22.9, 5.9, and 5.3 assists. So he had a
missed bunch
solid
of games.
season.
He did miss a lot of games. The Heat in general, they struggled at the beginning of the season, but they turn it around, which I think in large part is like why like he doesn't go crazy during the season like that. Like the way the Heat play, like it's a different dude's night any given night. And I feel like there's always someone hurt on their team, but they're just plugging and playing guys, and Spoelstra's system takes over and they just figure that shit out. So he doesn't have to like take over games like that because they just play the way they play and whatever
But
happens.
that's why I don't. That's legit the reason why though we don't look at him as that guy or as one of those guys. So I don't understand when the 2K, even like all these NBA analysts come out and say, Jimmy Butler is that guy. I don't get it.
I think he's on like the Jaylen Brown tier. I think he's that level of good. He's not the Tatum tier, but he's the Jaylen Brown tier. Like he's very, very good. He's a great decision maker. He plays the game the right way where a lot of dudes don't sometimes. That's the edge he has, his decision making and his physical tools. He's a big guard. He plays like 2 sometimes, but he's like 6'8", so he takes advantage of smaller guys a lot, and that's where his advantages lie. But he's not like, we're not watching him and marveling at his skill. He's just going and figuring out a way to win.
He's just an all-out guy. Yeah,
it's hard to quantify that. It's hard to put that in 2K terms. You know what I mean? So that's where it gets a little tough.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to him, I feel like he has that one factor where when you do put him up against adversity, he shines. And it's just the thing. I feel like when you are clutch or whenever you perform in like the big moments when it comes to basketball, that's when people start to really get on you. You get on the bandwagon. You know what I mean? Until this season, I don't think Jimmy really had any haters. You know what I mean? I think he was one of like the most like beloved like NBA players just because when he would perform, he would just give it his all. The Heat weren't really like favored to whenever, you know what I mean? Like honestly, after these playoffs, I feel like now this is the point that people are finally giving him expectations. I've been seeing things like, 0-2 in the finals. Oh, you can't win with Jimmy. You know what I mean? Like now I'm starting to see it where people are like, oh, we're expecting a little bit more from him. Like he's losing that underdog status. You know what I mean? Now it's like, oh, yo, go get a chip, Jimmy. What's good with you, Jimmy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you just going to perform and just not win? You know what I mean? Like always get there, but not like get to the top of the mountain. But I do think like I do think like obviously you got to give Jimmy your respect and everything, but like the 95 rating by 2K, I feel like this year they're just going wild. Like these ratings are crazy because I saw 95 with Jimmy Butler and I was like, all
It
right.
drops by the end of the season. It's gonna drop by the end of the season.
I don't know. This might give him motivation, bro. If he starts averaging like 27 and shit, it's 2K. It's not even like, you know what I mean? He's trying to keep his rating up. If you see that happen. If you see him going off, I'm calling that because he was amped. He did a freaking video off of it. He was like, when you're 95, but that's some clout. I'm not gonna lie, like that's some shit. Like there's some nasty niggas never been 95. Oh my god.
You're right, but I mean, we should have had the expectation after he made his first finals.
That was a bubble though. Niggas didn't believe.
Yeah. We didn't believe it. When he did it this time, I was like, damn, nigga. Like
the next year,
stuff.
The next
year
was mean. Hurt. The whole team was hurt. Both the Heat and the Lakers barely had players to play, and then the next season they lost the Eastern Conference Finals the year after. So it's tough. It's tough to quantify what the hell is going on there in Miami. But hey, shout out to him though. I ain't no hater, so good for him. You know what I mean?
I'm hating. Hey, bonus add on Zion Williamson 92.
I think that's fair. When he's on the court, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, when he's on the court, he's all NBA.
Facts. Like he's amazing, bro.
Yeah, but he's barely on the court. Barely on the court.
That's the
but why don't they do that to him like the way they're doing it to Paul George?
He's better than Paul George right now, I think. But I'll give him a 9. Like, yeah, Paul George should be a little bit higher. So should Jaylen Brown. 89, like they're both at least 90s. I think they both deserve.
And Paul George. 91. I think the last people. Yeah. Well, Paul George. What saves Paul George is everybody also remembers his performance against Phoenix in the playoffs.
Also, I think
he hooped. He hooped.
How he just started going crazy.
I think he has reverse Jimmy Butler syndrome. Like he was very successful early in his career, so the expectations of him are pretty high. We expect great things from Paul George. So when he doesn't perform, it's like, what the fuck? But when he does, it's like, all right, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're Paul George. Me and Lou, we talk about this all the time. He should be the best player in the league, literally. Like we say this all the time. He
has no flaws in his game.
His skill is crazy. There's no reason he should not be top 2. Like he's at least as good as KD. You know what I mean? But
he jinxed himself because when he started calling himself playoff P and he started hitting out the side of the backboard and shit, that's when like everything went downhill, bro. That's literally what happened. Because Jimmy was going off in the playoffs and he was like, oh, like playoff Jimmy doesn't exist. You know what I mean? He wasn't gassing himself up and shit, and he performed when it mattered. And Paul George talking about playoff P, that shit's crazy. Pandemic P. I'll never forget that shit. That shit was historic. Pandemic P.
Yes. I was being a bit being a fan of his, but I was suffering through that time, man. I was suffering.
Paul George low-key sabotaged himself. He definitely low-key sabotaged himself with the naming and like some of his antics. That kind of took away, like made people blind to how actually cold he is on the court. So some of that other stuff he was doing that made him blind. But yeah, I agree with what you guys said. He has like all the skill sets to be the best player in the league. He has everything.
But he be getting cooked by Joe Ingles too though. So it's like, yeah.
Bro, that was one game.
That would never happen to Jimmy Butler.
Literally, that was one game.
No, that was like a series, bro.
No, but listen.
Joe Ingles is giving him hell.
But niggas are acting like Paul George also wasn't balling that series. Yeah, they lost the series, but Paul George actually balling during that series.
I'm sorry, that doesn't get talked about enough in terms of like a blemish on 2 players' records. Like Westbrook. They lost to Donovan Mitchell and
rookie Donovan Mitchell
and Joe Ingles. Like literally, like they got cooked by the 2 of them. Like that don't even make no sense, bro. That's crazy.
And then you follow that up with the buzzer beater.
And Paul George finished 3rd in MVP voting, or was it the next year?
3rd. No, it's 3rd. It was his first year in OKC.
That he finished 3rd in MVP voting. You can't be going out.
It was his first year?
No, it's the second year. No, it's second year.
Because they had Melo, and then they got rid of Melo.
You're right. Yeah.
Yo, he was.
No, that was the season.
That year. I was talking my shit that year. He was hooping.
but
Got a
he's
couple
but,
game winners.
but we got one season like that out of him. He should have. There should be a
Nah,
thing.
he had,
No,
he
no,
had,
he
he
had
had,
another one.
he had,
He had
he
another
had
one.
an MVP caliber season in Indiana.
Is
Yeah.
that the same?
Yeah.
Is that the
I don't
same
think
year
I-
we got the Dame?
So
The
that
team
again?
really got what?
Is that same year we got the Dame wave?
Nah.
Or is
Nah,
the year
that
after?
was
That
that
was
was the year. Yeah, that was the MVP. No, that was the MVP caliber. That was top three because that was the second year. Because he played 2 years in OKC. First year, Donovan Mitchell beat him. Second year, Dan Lillard.
Yeah.
Which year did he finish third in MVP voting? That's what I'm trying to.
The Dame wave.
Oh, okay. Either way,
Yeah, that's crazy.
it's a damn shame. Would never happen to Jimmy Butler. Which again, it's hard to put that into 2K in 2K terms. You know what I mean? Because like, what do you say there? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, man. We got anything else on the docket?
We did have like the top athletic players in NBA history. I don't know if you guys still want to do that. I'll be honest, I didn't come prepared for my list.
I didn't come prepared either.
I
But
came
But I
prepared.
think,
I
but
can
like,
say
but like,
mine.
but like, I think our main reason to bring this up was, I
got
think
a
you
top
two said,
five
I think
easy,
you two said that Kobe is even the top 10.
Definitely not.
Let
Might not
me
be top
say
20.
mine. I got mine ready. I got mine ready.
I got real quick. I got a top 5 off the top of my head. I don't think.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
LeBron, Jordan, right? Then I'm going D Rose, Blake Griffin, and I want to say Dwight Howard. I think that's my top 5. I think that's
That is.
I might replace
I'm missing some of those
Dwight
people.
with Wilt.
I'm
But-
not hating on that list, but
Yeah.
I'm not loving the Dwight one.
Why not? I might
Top
replace
five, top
Dwight
five,
with
top five,
Wilt.
top five.
So
I'm not loving it. I'm not loving it. Top 5. I'm not
Dwight's
loving it.
not
I
top
come up-
5.
So I
haven't
got
come
a
up with
top.
mine.
I got a
Dwight touched
top
the top
10.
of the backboard. You remember the Superman dunk? What are you doing here? Like,
I'm definitely missing some people, but I got a solid top 10.
You ain't
Man,
you
got
gotta
Vince
list-
Carter
you
on
gotta
there.
list-
You ain't got Vince
you gotta
Carter on
list
there.
mine.
That's crazy.
I got Vince Carter on there. But anyway, number 1, LeBron. Number 2, Wilt. Number 3, Jordan. Number 4, Vince Carter. Number 5, Julius Erving, Dr. J. Number 6, Dominique Wilkins. Number 7, Russell Westbrook. Number 8, Sean Kemp. Number 9, Derrick Rose. Number 10, John Morant.
I would also have.
Ja
I would also
Morant,
have Russ.
interesting.
That
You don't
is
have
interesting. I
Blake
would-
Griffin above any of those guys?
So Blake is the one person that could get in here. I forgot about Blake. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Like, you feel me? Like you know someone's getting booted for Blake. Someone's
Blake
going out.
is certainly top.
Blake
And respect
is coming up the ranks. He might be right after Dr. J. Like I might have to put him above Dominique. Like that's
and respect to
hard.
D Rose.
It's tough for me
Respect to D
rank.
Rose. But I would definitely put Russell Westbrook over D Rose.
Oh,
too.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I talk about this with people all the time, and I just don't understand why. Like, Rose is faster, jumps just as high, and changes direction way better, which is why he has no ACLs. So I don't
That nigga.
get like Russell Westbrook's really athletic, but there's no comparison to D Rose for me. Like,
What? Oh, so you don't agree with me? You're saying?
Those two are like
No.
interchangeable. I think
they're,
those two are
they're
like
not
interchangeable.
though. They're really not. Like, there's like
I don't know. Russell Westbrook's
Y'all-
athleticism.
y'all need to
plus-
go watch
plus-
some Derrick Rose highlights, and you'll be like, no, Russell Westbrook's not doing this. I'm sorry. Like, Russell's game is like strength, power, trying to jump over niggas. He don't have the aerodynamics he has, and he doesn't cut on the floor. Like, he might be faster, like 94 feet than like in a straight line than Rose, but he can't change direction like Rose. And even then, I don't even know if
I would
straight line than Rose.
I would argue. With
I
that.
would go with Rose just because some of the crazy things that MVP were.
It was not even just the
That
MVP.
MVP year, Rose was doing some craziness.
It was I've never seen anything even remotely close to that to this day. The closest thing I can sort of think about that it reminds me a little bit of when I watch him is the stuff Zion does. Because I'm like, yo, your body should not be able to do this. Like the angles he takes, the way he changes direction, like I'm like, nigga, that didn't hurt. Like, that's what's going through my head. I'm thinking about my knees, and I'm like, nigga, that should look like it hurt. Okay. Like, I just can't wrap my head around some of that shit. Zion might be on this list. Zion might have to bump somebody off this list if he can stay half decently
Yeah,
healthy for a
my-
while.
The thing with that,
My-
I'm not disagreeing with you regarding like the change of speed wise or change of direction wise with D Rose and Russ Westbrook, but young Russ Westbrook could also do that too. Like,
Not like
you know what I'm
D-Rose.
saying? Like,
Not even close. Like it's not even a conversation.
I'm gonna take that, the athleticism, but Russell Westbrook, just like his ferociousness was something crazy, bro. Like watching Russell Westbrook OKC, the Young Guns, that shit was fucking phenomenal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Russell Westbrook was also doing, yes, I give it to you, he was doing like the acrobatic
To
You know
me,
what I'm
there's
saying?
nothing Rose. To me, there's nothing Westbrook can do that Rose couldn't. But there's stuff Rose could do that I don't think Westbrook could. That's what it comes down to for me.
You got that. You got that.
That's just the way I think about it.
Yeah, my list look a little different because I might have some guys that you like. So I got Gerald Green. This isn't
Ooh.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Oh.
Hey,
Do y'all remember Stromae Swift?
yeah. Top 10
Stromae Swift was crazy
over
athletic.
Dwight.
I'm not
Yeah.
done yet, but yes. Hey, yes. Shaq, Orlando Shaq.
I'm not mad at that either.
I'm not mad at that either.
I'm not mad.
Orlando Shaq. I got LeBron in there because LeBron was
Right.
That's just something else.
He's number,
LeBron.
he's number one.
I got Zion. Zion in there.
A little early. Zion and Ja, I feel like might end up there, but I'm not ready yet.
Josh Smith.
Ooh.
I got to put Josh Smith in there. Sean Kemp. I definitely got to put Sean Kemp in there.
I thought about it. I thought about Sean
Put
Kemp.
Sean Kemp in there. Jason Richardson.
Tough one.
Yeah, because that man's still jumping with the head at the rim today.
Yeah. And then Vince Carter and Jordan.
Yeah, you gotta have Vince Carter in your top 10.
I like everybody on that list. Stromae was very athletic for his size, but like that's why I had Dwight on mine. To me, Dwight's just more athletic, like a better player. Like they're similar. But I'm not mad at it. But I got one guy that I got beef with.
I mean, yeah, Dwight was he was a pretty good new type.
I got one guy I got beef with on y'all's list, and that's Vince Carter.
What?
I don't think Vince is great, slam dunk contest, great in-game dunker at that. But when we're talking athleticism, I don't know that I don't know that he displayed the overall athleticism some of these other guys did in terms of the change of direction and the strength, now he's pretty acrobatic. Like he was great, but he might just be just outside my top 10, maybe like 12 or 11 or 12. Like, but I think there's some dudes you could definitely say are like objectively more athletic than him. Like
he jumped over a 7-footer, bro.
I understand.
You're insane, bro. You're insane. No, like this
We've
is
seen
like,
niggas do that in the
this
slam
is
dunk contest.
great in game, bro.
That's
You're
great.
insane, bro. This is the thing I'm gonna say too. It's not. I'll say one thing about it. I don't think Vince Carter was like incredibly fast or something, but he was obviously fast. You know what I'm saying? Like he in his prime, he was athletic. He was one of those slashers. Like he could cross you up and blow by you. You feel me? I do think he was strong too. He didn't play like a Westbrook, you know what I mean? He played like Vince Carter, you feel me? And I don't know, man. I think that man is easy top 5. I think a lot of people would consider him number 1. Like to say he's out of the top 10, you're crazy.
Don't think so. Like
I say top 8.
Crazy, bro. Like
anything after 8, I gotta argue with you.
I don't
out of the top 10. You're great. You cannot name me 10 more athletic people than
I think I can though. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I think there's dudes with better feet, not for nothing. Like and more well-rounded athleticism. Like I think I got a lot. I think I got a lot of dudes that are
over.
I might even say
you gotta come ready next week, Josh. You gotta come ready with your list.
Like, I don't think I
Yeah,
need that much time to do this. That's my thing. Like
this
Vince
is
is not.
unbelievable. This is a take.
all in all, I'm just glad none of you guys said Giannis. I'm just glad none of you guys said Giannis in the top 10.
He's very athletic. But
He's
it's
top 15 for sure. He's
He's
coming
top
up.
20.
I
He's
don't know
top
for sure.
25 athletic, but he's not the first person you think. He doesn't pop in your head when you think of athletic players. You think of like
In the wise words of James Harden, I wish I could just run and dunk.
Like, I
We're
don't
not
think
doing that. That quitter. We're not doing that right now.
Nah, right.
quickly on James Harden. It's kind of ironic that he said that in front of the folks in China, knowing the
I know because
what
Daryl Morey
Daryl.
got beef in China. That's why he did it.
Yeah, I'm
I-
glad we're talking about this. This man is insane, bro.
I'm conflicted. I love the soap opera of it all, but I also don't respect.
Love that is
I don't
James
like
Harden.
I don't
The
like.
messenger. The messenger.
Nah, I don't like the whole doing it in the media type. I don't play those. I don't respect that. But at the same time, it's entertaining, so I'm here for it.
It's interesting how
Very-
it's going to play out.
Yeah, it's very entertaining, especially coming from him, of all people.
Right.
Yeah. Who do you think can self-destruct the team more? Kyrie Irving or James Harden? Who do you think wins it?
I mean, James Harden, because he
Oh, no,
he
it
did
might
not the team.
They might be similar, bro. They
It might be 1A, 1B in that sense.
Yeah, ain't no wrong answer with that one.
I'll tell you what, nobody else compares to them.
Yeah.
Nobody else compares to him.
Nah.
No one else compares to him. I'm gonna say right now, Harden surprised me. You know what I mean? Like this surprised me more than Kyrie. This is crazy. This man, like, I didn't believe what I was seeing online. You know what I mean? I've never been like in shock.
Yeah,
You
I
know
saw
what I
that. I was like, what?
Because it was mad professional too.
Yeah, he
He's a lie.
I'll say it again. I was like,
And the thing that killed me the most is I was like, how are you out of shape right now? That's what like made me lose it. I was like, why are you out of shape?
What do you guys think he wants out of basketball at this point?
I don't know.
I hope it rains. I really do hope
think
it
he
rains.
wants
But
that?
He doesn't care about a ring. He doesn't give
I
a
don't
fuck
think
about a
so.
ring.
I brought
He
it,
doesn't
but
care.
I brought it up in the chat earlier. The person who broke that story, the person who recorded that video or whatever, the person who broke that whatever, is a reporter or a media worker for the Clippers, which is very interesting because that is the team that James Harden said that he wanted to go to. So I just found that very interesting.
No, the thing about Harden, and it's bad, but it's true. Harden is starting to ruin the power that the players have in general. Now, like look at what they're doing right now. And I feel like it's because him and like other players are moving around so much. These owners are just like, no, I'm giving up.
But let me hold on. But let me ask you a question though. Who else is doing it like James Harden? That's what I've seen people say that like James Harden, he's ruined the power, player empowerment and stuff like that. But really, who else has done it? What James Harden is doing, I don't think anybody else has. Dame Lillard just finally requested a trade after everybody's been begging him to request a trade. Now that he requested a trade, now people are mad that he requested a trade. It's like, who else has done what James Harden's doing? I don't think anybody else has done it like
I'm
that.
not really mad at Harden, to be honest, though. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think he's a cancer the way Kyrie has been, because he was with the Rockets for a while. They tried, they failed, so he's like, all right, I think it's time to move on. They sent his ass to Brooklyn, and that Brooklyn wasn't really his fault. There was just a lot of bullshit going on there. People, Kyrie there as well. You know what I mean?
Brooklyn wasn't his first choice.
I think he saw the writing on the wall and was just kind of like, yeah, no, this is not gonna work, which I can respect to some extent. And he didn't do nothing crazy. He just asked for a trade. Like, I'm the first player to ask for a trade, and then he went to Philly and they told him they'd pay him this season and they didn't. So now he's like, all right. I don't like the way he's going about it, but if he were to be like, trade me, I wouldn't be mad at. I'm not mad at that either. So
yeah, I think he's probably reached it. He might be saying is that, you know what, I already tried getting rings.
Yeah,
I'm just going back to the bag. Send me back to Houston where I can get the money and I can have fun.
Hey man, more power to him. I ain't mad at that. He might have judged.
And Daryl Morey, he's kind of, he's not the most likable person.
So I hear.
True.
So I hear.
Hey, Houston Rockets James Harden is still the best offensive player I've ever seen. I agree with your mama.
All right.
We're not getting into that.
All right.
R.I.P. Kobe.
Not today. All right, we got
All right,
anything else,
fellas.
boys?
No, I think that was very good. That was very entertaining.
This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Josh, I definitely got to hear your top 10 next week. I want it.
I'll get to you before next week, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear I want to hear the 9 players you ever had in this starter.
I don't think it's that hard to come up with 9. Like, I really don't.
Crazy, man.
Like,
Craziness.
it's
All
not
right.
crazy. But
All right, folks.
yeah, man.
Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. McCall, thank you for coming on, man. Again, we really appreciate you coming on. Hope we get to come
Thank
on
y'all
again
for
later
having
on.
me. Yes,
Of
sir.
course.
Yeah, keep doing your thing, man. Representing them.
Oh, did y'all talk about the Marcus Smart trade already?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. But yeah, go ahead, give your 2 cents. Go ahead.
It was time. He should have been traded a couple of years ago.
All right.
I don't know why people were sad that he's gone, but time and time again, he just has these moments in big games where he just does dumb stuff. It never changed since his rookie year. So many times.
If Gabe was here, he'll be jumping for joy right now. He'll agree with you.
Granted, he plays hard, plays defense, a lot of effort, but it was just too many times where he'll cost him the game. That's my whole 2 cents. But 10 years is a good run for with one organization.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a
I
good
can't never argue with that. Sad to see him go, but you're right. It probably was time. I don't know if a couple of years ago was time. I think a couple of years ago people would have been more mad or more upset. But I think like right now, and for the piece that we got, I think it was like the right time.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely miss him. But the thing is, like, right now, Porzingis is injured. That shit got me scared a little bit. I'm not
That
gonna
shit got
lie.
me tight. I saw that shit today, bro. That shit got me so tight.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
a
so
little
upset.
shook. Only time will tell. Hopefully, we won that trade. I'm praying, bro. Fingers crossed.
Hey, but we'll get Marcus Smart back one way or another. I promise you. Marcus Smart is going to play for the Celtics again.
Yeah, that ring is gonna hurt this year without him. So
facts.
Nah, if history repeats itself and he's like Tony Allen, they're gonna retire his jersey in Memphis.
Yeah.
Hey, they need an adult in that room anyway. So
yeah, they do.
Crazy, we're calling Marcus Smart the adult in the room.
Yeah, right.
On that team.
Yeah, I feel like anybody can help. They need all the help they can get.
Anybody that's played 10 years plus can help.
Exactly. Put the weapons down.
That team is just full of young running guns, like literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the future though. Expect a chip from them sometime.
I don't know. I don't think Ja finishes his career in Memphis, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
All right, man. I know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. We will see y'all very soon. Peace.
Peace.